So today's video, I'm going to be talking about my 13-year publishing journey through Amazon. So I'm going to take a look at my journey. I'm going to summarize the type of books that I've published, the type that I've had success with, and the type that I've had no success with. We're going to take a look at the mistakes that I've made. I'm going to take a look at the things that have made a huge difference to my publishing success. Going to take a look at the future, the insights into what I'm going to be getting up to build an actual business from all of this. And then we're going to take a look at examples all throughout so that you can avoid the mistakes that I've made and focus on things that are going to help you make more sales. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Chris. I've been publishing through Amazon for over 10 years, currently selling around 4,000 units per month. So I'm going to talk about the type of books that these come from as we go through this video. So let's get into this. I'm going to quickly go through my journey with the type of books that I've published over the last 10 years. So I began in 2012, 2013. So the thing to do back in 2012 or 2013, the kind of get rich type of scheme back there, was to sell ebooks. Now this was going very well for a couple years. I was making decent money, and then I stopped in 2015 because Amazon changed the way that people were getting paid. So people were kind of getting unfairly paid through the Kindle Unlimited program. I think it was every time someone borrowed a book, you would make like $2 regardless of how long your books were. Amazon deemed this to be a little bit unfair for good longer books where people were getting paid the same amount, and they changed this, which pretty much killed a lot of people's income. It wasn't gaming the system per se because Amazon allowed it, but it was certainly an easy way for people to make money. But Amazon stomped on that pretty promptly. Back then I wasn't really serious at all, so I didn't really care, but I got back into things in 2018. I actually purchased a course from a guy called Emeka Osai, who I think has a YouTube channel at the moment, and I started pursuing high content books in 2018. Actually had no money. I was completely broke in 2018. Wrote this book myself. It took around 3 to 4 months to write this book. We didn't have any advertising money to put into this, and it ended up selling quite well. I think it was making maybe $500, $600 a month, and that's when I started producing more high content books. And those books actually fell because I found it so painfully boring to write those type of books. And we're going to talk about motivation as we go through this. But I pretty much gave up doing that in 2018 and started testing advertising for some of those books in 2019. Had no clue why I was running ads. It just seemed like the thing that people were doing at the time. Again, ads are important, and we're going to talk about them. So from here, I think it was at the start of 2020 or the end of 2019, I wasted around 3, 4, maybe 5 months on publishing low content books. So we're talking about things like logbooks, journals, planners. I'm not saying you can't make money with it, but I created around 300 to 400 of these books during this period, and only one of those books started selling well. And this was kind of the game-changing moment for me in my publishing journey, because the only book that sold well was something that the marketplace had never seen before. So it was a kind of twist or whatever on a bucket list journal, I think that it was, and that was the book that sold really well, which still sells quite well to this day. But like I said, this was a point where my eyes started opening to publishing. I then had some success. I was kind of just doing whatever. I started writing short stories for seniors. At the time, it was what I felt motivated by, but in the end, it wasn't where I saw my long-term pursuit. And that's incredibly important for me, is that I need to have this big dream that I focus on to make these short-term goals worth it. So from there, I decided that I liked the idea of doing coloring books because of the creativity that's involved with them. So I think, I can't remember exactly the timeline. Some of this is going to be completely wrong, but I think it was 2021 that I published a few of these coloring books, and none of them made any sales. And that's when I started to take things a little bit more seriously, because I could see that coloring books were selling very well on Amazon, and it would give me a chance to probably build something much bigger, a beautiful pen name that I could eventually hopefully sell in future, which again we'll talk about as we go through this video. But I committed to a brand or a pen name in 2022, and that's when things completely changed for me. The amount of sales that I was making completely changed. The way that I approached doing coloring books was completely different than what people preach and what I was doing myself, and again we'll talk about that as we go through this. I think it's incredibly important that we take a look at the failures that successful people have had, what people have been through that just doesn't work for the vast majority of people. So thoughtless publishing. Now, I'm not saying that low content books don't work for some people, because I know some people are making money from it. I'm just curious how many people in 2025 are actively pursuing low content books and making money with this. So this was one of my biggest failures, uploading tons of these logbooks, notebooks, journals, diaries, planners, whatever you want to call them. Wasted so much time, wasted so much of my life publishing these type of books. So I'll show you an example of these type of books now. So we're talking about these kind of independently published notebooks. I think this one's independently published, I'm not sure, but just as an example, this is the typical type of side hustle book that people upload onto, or push the idea that these type of simple books can be made if you just buy this very specific piece of software and just follow their niche research and keyword things, and then you can make a ton of money from just uploading shitty little notebooks. And my opinion is that this pursuit is incredibly hard, and it's my opinion in 2025 it's even harder, and I think it's going to waste a lot of people's time. I think it's a good entry into pressing the publish button so you can get used to setting up a listing, getting used to keywords, and getting used to creating book covers and things like that. But in terms of creating an amazing business from notebooks, I don't know many people that really feel passionate about doing that. And this is like the notebook thing, the low content book thing. It's like for the last few years it's been the get rich quick side of publishing, and it's just my opinion that it's bullshit basically. So that's low content books, and like I said, I know that some people are making money with it. I just don't know how many people are actively uploading these type of books in 2025 and crushing it, as they say. Probably not many. So the next failure from here was paying for too many tools, monthly subscription services. So there's tons out there, I'm not going to name any of them, but what I found is that for me the focus on tools that pick out keywords and things like that, I've just never found any use for them. Ones that pick out categories for you, again, I'm sure that they're great and they have a use for some people, but in terms of where I'd rather put my money, we're talking about things like working on a book cover or spending money on advertising, I think is much more useful than these tools. So in terms of tools that I actually use myself, there's a few AI tools that I use like ChatGPT that I think are worth the money, and I also use free tools like Helium 10's BSR, historic BSR chart. So for me, in my opinion, the BSR chart is the only one that you need in terms of checking how profitable a niche is, because when you look at the BSR on any given day for a book, so if you check today for this book, let's say this date was on the 19th of whatever month this is, of 2024, if you checked on that day, you would have seen that the BSR was 700,000 nearly, which would mean that the book is not profitable, it's not making any money. Now, if you were to look back over the course of a year, you can see that actually this book dipped like crazy for some reason during, I guess it's like the back to school period, is it? I don't know. But over the course of its lifetime, this book has made a ton of money. So that's the way that I think people should be doing their research in terms of establishing if there's a demand for a certain type of book or niche. Because really, with anything that you do, you want to see the facts in front of you. You want to see factual information, and historic BSR is factual information. So like I said, I pretty much only use Canva, ChatGPT, and just a couple AI softwares, which we'll talk about as we go through this. You don't need to have millions of different types of research tools. And the one thing that I think people should understand with keyword research tools is that it's not Amazon's data. And I think the emphasis on keywords is becoming less and less anyway. But again, I think if you're new, I think it can help you get some ideas for keywords. It's just not something I've ever used. And I would be completely honest, if it helped me a lot, I would be recommending all sorts of keyword tools to you. I just don't. So from here, watching YouTube videos, again, without being distasteful here to content creators, has never helped me, not in the slightest, I don't think. I'm actually someone that learns from courses and following successful people who've done well. And actually you can see what those people have done to get to where they are. YouTube is there's a big shadow over YouTube. You can't see what people are doing. You don't know if they're being honest or not. And this is the reality that they live in. You don't know if I'm being honest or not. You don't know if the next guy is being honest when he's shilling his niches to you every single week, for example. I just think that a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of YouTube content can lead to people getting their expectations all out of whack and then getting demotivated, demoralized, and then quitting. Okay, we want people to be realistic and be in this for the long term and to build something beautiful. Now, just to give you an example of why this domain is quite misleading. Like I say, I don't mean to demoralize people or demotivate people, quite the opposite. I just think it's important that people look at the reality behind, especially when it comes to like hot niches and videos that make the opportunity look much easier than it actually is. So for example, when you see a video that says, hey, there's a new niche I've just found, it's a comfy patterns coloring book, and then what they'll do is they'll take this keyword, comfy patterns coloring book, and then they're going to search it on the search bar here, and then they're going to say to you, oh look, it's only got 446 search results, which means you can easily get ranked on the first page, and look how well these books are selling. And then they're going to go over to this BSR, and they're going to plug this number into a BSR tool, which is going to tell you how much money this book is making, which is probably going to be wrong anyway. And then they're going to say you can get ranked on the first page and take some of the money for yourself. Now, the reality behind these type of books and most books is that they are super competitive. And what's really happening is that this type of book is being found from a much broader keyword, something like coloring book for adults or bold and easy coloring book. And then what happens from there is that they like the concept of comfy patterns. So I can pretty much guarantee you, when people say, oh, this niche is super untapped, I can pretty much guarantee you that there's going to be a load of shitty books that people have uploaded after watching these videos that just don't make any money because they're not paired with the reality here. So just go over to the newest arrivals, and we can see again, like there's going to be a ton of books here that aren't making any sales because these people thought that this was the niche that they can get into. This was the niche. This is the niche. The comfy patterns is the niche, and they do a lesser job than what's already being offered out there. And you can see there's tons and tons and tons and tons of these books that just aren't making any sales. So in my opinion, that's the reality behind these type of books, is that they're getting found from much broader and much more competitive search terms. But for me, that's a good thing. Like if most people want to go after this lazy effort, hot niche keyword shit, that's fine, right? That's absolutely fine, because it doesn't affect people that want to do these type of books the right way. And people say, oh, you know, this Amazon's getting flooded with these type of books, and AI books are flooding the marketplace. If the book is bad, regardless of whether it's AI or not, Amazon doesn't promote it. They just won't. It's illogical for Amazon to promote books. So the saturation thing has been the biggest cope job I think people have ever come up with, just my opinion. But we'll talk about what makes these books work as we go through the call. So if you're still with me and you are interested in the reality behind publishing and publishing those type of books in particular, I actually showcase everything from my main pen name, everything that I do with my main pen name. I showcase inside of my membership, and we have all this recorded, full transparency on everything that's happening, so people can actually see the reality here. And I think this domain, without being a goody two shoes, I think this domain needs to make money online domain in general. I think it is dying. It's crying out for some transparency here. But if you're interested in checking out the Raydog membership, where we have all these live calls recorded every single Friday, chrisraydog.com. This membership comes with all the course content. If you learn that way, course content on ads, keywords, niches, all those things, all my strategies. You can get direct feedback from me and other people inside of our Discord community, weekly live group coaching calls. There's a lot that goes into this. If you want to check it out, it's chrisraydog.com. So that's the YouTube scene. It's just a personal thing that I don't learn. I know that sounds a bit strange having a YouTube channel, but for me, I just don't learn that well from YouTube videos. I like to follow people that have actually can show what they've done, for example. So not putting time towards what really makes a difference. So I've witnessed people, again, just my opinion, I've witnessed people creating spreadsheets, hours and hours and hours, and tons of spreadsheets with different keywords, long tail, short tail keywords, all sorts of fancy back end keywords, and spending loads of time on this, but not focusing on the things that really matter. So we'll talk about the things that matter, but just a spoiler alert here, we're talking about things like unique selling points and book covers. Okay, so learning skills that help you create better book covers and utilizing the right tools to create better book covers. These have been the most game-changing things for me. We'll go through and do examples of this as we go through the video. But the reality here is that unless it's been proven, unless something has really been proven without a doubt, that it's going to help you make a difference with your sales, then it's illogical to follow it. And I've never seen anyone attribute their success to having a good keyword, unless it's for a high content book. That's a different story probably. Okay, so we need to go and make effort where effort needs to be made to make us money. So not collecting emails sooner has been one of my biggest regrets. We've only just started in the last sort of few months collecting emails. Now, if you're super serious, you want this for the long run, you want to be able to build a business and sell more things to people, have a website that people buy your shit through, building an email list is going to be super, super important. Again, we'll talk about that as we go through. Pursuing the money and not the dream. So some people will completely disagree. This is just my motivation here. I am not motivated by get rich quick schemes or quick ways to make money on Amazon, like the low content books or the specific keywords, or just utilizing AI just to try and get into high content niches. It doesn't do it for me. What motivates me is the dream, the bigger picture, and the bigger picture has at this point come down to creating the coloring books and then thinking about what I can sell with these coloring books, have it a pen name that has like really awesome social media presence, and then one day being able to actually exit that business for a substantial amount of money. That's what motivates me. That's what the dream is for me. So quitting and complaining, I'm not the guy that tells people how to stay motivated, but I think there's a lot of quitters, a lot of complainers. It's illogical to quit and complain. It's illogical to complain in particular. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of your breath. You either have this or you don't. But quitting and complaining is the fastest way of not being successful. With publishing, I actually quit back in 2013. 2015, sorry. And I nearly didn't start up again. I was blaming everyone else except for myself. But the reality is that this is you. This is down to you, your motivations. But again, like I say, I think there are ways that you can fast track your success that will ultimately keep you motivated. So with that in mind, let's talk about the game changes. For me, the things that have made substantial difference to the amount of sales that I make into my publishing account. So believe it or not, going after heavily competitive niches has been one of the biggest game changers for me, and publishing in areas where I can be creative. Now, if we take these two points here, competitive niches and areas that you can be creative, for me it's been coloring books. Now, the coloring book domain has been tarnished by YouTube videos like the get rich hot niche videos. It completely tarnishes it, and people don't understand what really works for these type of books. So we have a very interesting process that I go through now where we utilize AI to help us to create these book covers. So I put a heavy emphasis on my book covers, because I've always said to people, and I continue to say to people, that your book covers are your sales. So what Amazon is going to prioritize is people that click on books and then buy it. So the entry to your sale is pretty much always going to be the book cover. Okay, so it is super important that if you're doing something like a coloring book, that you make the book cover interesting, that you follow the basics of what makes for a good book cover. So the text placement, the color contrast, and things like that. And then paired with having a unique selling point that makes sense has been the two biggest game changers for me. So unique selling point can be something as simple as how you title your book to make it stand out, the colors that you use on the book cover if they make sense, but ideally having a topic that makes sense. Okay, so actually what I want to do now is to actually cover all of this, the process that I go through. So I want to share this because I just do think that this is so important. But when it comes to coloring books in particular, the first thing that you start with is the idea. Now, this is the reason why I love coloring books so much, and this is why it kind of just reduces the risk of there being any saturation, because most people, they're just out there with the keywords and the hot niches doing the same thing, seeing the same results as every other idiot that's doing the same thing. Okay, so the great thing about coloring books is that the creativity is unlimited with what you can produce. Now, it's come to my attention recently that I think, provided that the book makes sense, is well illustrated, has a really interesting book cover, I think people are interested in so many different types of topics. And just to use as an example here, you might have seen this book here. It's got some slightly controversial images inside, which I'm not going to talk about, but the point is that this is the first person to do this type of cozy crime scene, which means a load of other people are going to start doing it as well. But they were the first people to do this. They did it well, minus some of the controversial topics inside the book, and the book is now a #1 bestseller. It's like ranked 100 on Amazon, which means it's making a stupendous amount of money. But the point is, they've not just done what everyone else is doing. They've done something different, and they're the first to do it, which means they're going to collect a ton of sales. So obviously with coloring books, you can't just upload shit. It has to be high quality, good illustrations, and this is what I'm going to talk about now. Because like I said, for me, this has been super important. So this all starts with an idea. They had the idea of doing the cozy crime scene, which is fantastic. So just an example, we start the idea and we plug this into ChatGPT. So I'm creating a cozy superhero book. Just an example, give me some ideas for an interesting book cover in this niche, and then ChatGPT is going to come back with a load of suggestions. You can keep doing this. You can keep just having ongoing discussions until you get something that you want from ChatGPT. But just as an example, I picked I can't remember which one it was, number 8, the Fuzzy Sidekick Duo. And then we asked ChatGPT to make a cover image for this book, whether it's color or the line art sketch. ChatGPT is going to come back with this. Now, you would probably want to do this 20, 30, 40 times. Take a day doing this, whatever, how long it takes to come back with an interesting book cover. So for me, this is not particularly interesting for these book covers. I like to see something interesting happening, but just as an example, obviously you won't be using Superman either. But then what we would do from here, and this is the game-changing stuff, is to pass this on to an illustrator who then creates a line art version of this, and that line art version then gets put into AI software to do the coloring for it. So this is game-changing because it helps to create book covers that stand out, that are dynamic and interesting, which means you're going to increase your chances of getting people to click on your book, which is going to increase the chance of you making sales. So from there, you would take the image the illustrator comes back with, and then you can place your text on top or wherever you want to have your title and subtitle to complete your book cover. So since there's quite a bit of specifics to go into this pursuit of creating these incredible book covers, I introduced to the Raydog members a couple months ago, I think that it was, and people have been incredibly impressed. People have started utilizing this themselves. So it's kind of a mixture of AI and illustrators and your own work. If you want to ever check this out, if you ever join the Raydog publishing community, you get access to all these videos which have been recorded. So we did this one, I think it's on in November, called AI Colored Interiors. We're going to be doing more about this as I learn more about this myself. There's going to be more cool topic on this because, like I said, I truly think this is a game changer. It can reduce the production costs, production time of your book covers, and make them stand out ahead of the competition. So for me, without going on for too long, because like I said, this is a 44-minute video that I would explain everything, it is a game changer. If you want to get access to all these live calls that have been recorded, that's chrisraydog.com if it's interesting to you. So those two factors combined, book covers, unique selling point, complete and utter game changer. So utilizing advertising strategies that make sense has been another game changer for me. So most people who watch YouTube content are publishing slightly lower priced books, less than $10. So the chance of you making a direct profit from your advertising campaigns is quite low, and if you do that, you're not going to make much money directly from ads. Now, if you're in the UK, you pay an extra 20% on top of your ad spend, which makes it even harder. So you have to have this really thoughtful advertising strategy for your book. So just to take a look at my ads very quickly now. Actually, the first point that I want to make is, and something that took me a long time to kind of accept, is that looking at advertising data on a day-to-day basis is not productive, because you can see today that I've had yesterday I had 9 orders, $27 to spend with a 43% ACOS, which means we're losing money on that day. Now, if we were to take a look at this month, we have an ACOS of 22%, 300 orders and 5,000 clicks with $600 of spend, which means that we're kind of breaking even with the advertising sales. With the 20% on top, is probably around break even, which is what we want. So with advertising, the purpose for these type of books, if they're low priced, is you need to use them to increase the velocity of your sales during your launching of your book. Now, this for me has been a game changer because it allows you, if you run ads correctly in a thoughtful manner, what's going to happen is that you can get sales to your book very, very quickly. And the more sales that you get to your book early on, the better this is going to be for more organic ranking. So what is Amazon going to prioritize? Again, this is what we're talking about when things have to make sense. Amazon's going to prioritize people clicking on your book, which means the book cover. Amazon is going to prioritize books that are selling, which is what ads can allow you to do. So this velocity of sales that you're getting to your book over a prolonged period is going to tell Amazon that your book is good, and that Amazon should push this out to more areas of its marketplace, which means you get more visibility, which means you get more sales. Right? This is the boring shit that matters. Unique selling point, good book covers, thoughtful advertising spend. So one of the key areas where people screw up with ads is that they don't know when to stop their advertising campaigns. So I preach heavily that you need to look at certain metrics. So spoiler alert here, very boring. I just use automatic campaigns. I know, boring, but it's what works incredibly well, and it's worked well for me for a very long time. The metrics that I look at are the cost per click. If we can get this up, cost per click, I look to see if my campaign and my book is capable of getting a low cost per click. So I utilize certain methods where I reduce the cost per click over time to get my cost per click to what I think is going to be its lowest point. Obviously, we look at the orders versus the clicks. For automatic campaigns, I like to see around 1 in 10, 1 in 20 maximum. Obviously, we're just outside of the 1 in 10 for this month, but it doesn't matter because the cost per click is so low. The conversions don't have to be as good. And the next thing that I look at is if the books are making organic sales. So even if we're at a slight loss with ads, if we're making organic sales, that's great. So super important stuff. If you want me to go through this step by step, we do have the launch course here. If you do learn from courses better than YouTube content, launch course, you want the specifics of the metrics that I go into. We look inside the metrics mastery, and then we just have the ads and marketing section in general. So these three areas: KDP launch, ads and marketing, metric mastery. All of this comes from day number one with the membership. And if you want to check this out, it's going to help you massively with your advertising and understanding what is a pretty solid approach for running ads. So that's Amazon ads. I'm running out of breath for some reason. So AI, as we've already discussed, has been one of the biggest game changers for me in 2025. I was completely against AI a year or so ago because it was the same thing that's happening most of the time before AI was introduced, and that was people just uploading shit onto Amazon. People continued to upload shit, but they were just using AI to create that shit. However, this is real. Like AI is now so powerful that if you utilize it in certain ways, you can create amazing content. You can create amazing book covers. So for me, getting loads of ideas from ChatGPT, getting sketches that I can pass to my illustrator from ChatGPT, getting books colored from using AI has been another game changer for me as well. And when you have the books colored, the cover colored using AI, if you do it in the right way, you can create some really dynamic, incredible standout book covers that will just blow the competition away. Incredibly awesome stuff. If you're not utilizing AI to some extent, I do think at this point, with how powerful it is, that you are going to get left behind slightly. So that doesn't mean that you have to upload AI everything, but using it as a tool, I think, is incredibly helpful. So being patient is the other thing as well. Now, rushing and trying to make a ton of sales with low content books means that you're probably creating low quality books. Now, I don't want to keep going on about making high quality books. That takes time. Obviously, it takes time to do that. But being patient is extremely important, especially when it comes to coming up with the idea for your book, having the content created for your book, accepting that the book is going to fail. All of this takes a lot of time. Advertising campaigns to start kicking in and making consistent sales with ads. It all takes time. It can be frustrating, but it is incredibly important to not rush projects out onto Amazon. But at the same time, you don't want to spend forever creating the content either. So it is really important that you get the balance right, depending on what type of books you're publishing. So for me, I have this kind of premium, I would consider it, pursuit, where we're having books illustrated, we're going through the AI process of creating the book covers. This is around one book per month. Okay, that's enough for me in order to get this quality, to make sure that I have advertising budget to give the ads chance to kick in. This takes about a month per book. Okay, so if you're doing slightly lower budget pursuits, like just using AI with a smaller advertising budget, then you probably want to upload maybe 3, 4, 5 books a month instead. Like I said, accepting book failures is incredibly important, because if you make the assumption that a lot of the books are going to fail, you're going to have a better idea as to what your budget is for creating content, and then you can pick the way that you create content based off of this budget. So one of the worst things that you can do, in my opinion, is spend all your money, a ton of money, on one project, put everything into that basket, and just hope that it makes you a ton of sales with your advertising. It doesn't work that way. On a very competitive marketplace like Amazon, some of your books are going to fail. But with that in mind, I want to talk about the future, give you some insights into what I'm doing basically for the future, and why I think this is important for people that are super serious about this. Now, even though I spent a lot of time doing the whole Amazon thing, I do think relying on Amazon, solely on Amazon, is not the smartest thing that you can do. Yes, it's a good opportunity, but ultimately, Amazon is just going to be a place where you make money. It's not, in my opinion, your entire business. It should be a slice of your business. Okay, so we want, ideally, especially if you're doing coloring books or medium content books, is to train customers to buy through your website. So we've recently had, I think it's our first, with a pretty poor offering that we have at the moment, we've had our first 6 sales come from our website. So we're building up an email list, and we're promoting from time to time the new book releases, and we had a few sales come from our website. Now, the interesting thing here is that the offering that we have at the moment means that customers have to wait a long time to get the books come to them. They offer the same paper quality as Amazon, and there's also a glitch that we had where people had to pay more postage. So all those factors considered, people were still buying the books. They were happy to wait for them, and this is a testament to having high quality product. And also, what's interesting, we found that the people that bought from the website, they were buying multiple books, which means we actually get an understanding of what our customers are going to be buying. And we also have the opportunity to sell more products to them. So for example, if you're doing coloring books, then having like branded pens, for example, would be a great upsell. And from here, we're currently looking to work with influencers to build our social media presence. I think that's going to be super important in the long run, and then continue to build a huge email list. So if you're not working on building a huge email list, you don't really have a business, in my opinion. So when it comes to building your email list, what I recommend that people do is look into utilizing QR codes, having a website, and then giving away something for free to get people onto your email list. So the great thing about this is that if you are capturing emails to people that have already bought something from you, they've already spent money, which is probably much more powerful than someone that just wants a freebie with no other incentive. So that's it for this video. And again, if you want to fast track your success with publishing, we have pretty much everything that you could need inside of the Raydog membership. That's chrisraydog.com. Remember, it comes with all the course content you could possibly need. We have a back to basics case study for people that are new to publishing. We have the weekly live group calls, which get recorded, where I update people with what I'm doing, the latest techniques with AI and all those things. And we also have an incredible Discord community where you can come in, you can get feedback on your book covers, your advertising stats, pretty much anything you want feedback on from me and other people as well. That's chrisraydog.com. Feel free to check that out.